There once was a game studio named Traveler's Tales. Traveler's Tales had made a few decently received licensed games for Disney, and he even worked in crappy spin-off games nobody likes that featured the Blue Red himself. He was one of the most popular students at the Academy for B-list baby game developer studios. But Traveler's Tales wanted more. He dreamed of one day making it big. He wanted his own Scrimble platformer. It was a rainy afternoon when Traveler's Tales was approached by a shadowy figure in an alley. It was Universal Interactive Studios, the crack battler. "Hey kid," said UIS, "want some classic game franchise licenses?" "My mommy told me to never take classic game licenses from strangers," responded TT. But even as the words were still coming out of his mouth, TT saw something. And when he saw it, he knew he could never actually refuse the stranger's offer. There, on the inside of UIS's coat, was the license to Crash Bandicoot. This was it. This was TT's chance to make it to the big leagues. TT grasped the license firmly as he ran home. The Academy's talent show was in 2 weeks, and he needed to have the biggest, baddest, most ambitious Crash game ever ready by then, to blow Naughty Dog out of the water. It was going to have everything. Big, open environments, elemental magic mechanics, a edgy, epic story. Then our hero spent the next 2 weeks daydreaming about how great his game was going to be. The night before the big talent show, he got drunk with a copy of Crash Warped and coded the entire thing in one go. Well, Crash Bandicoot was seen by many as the mascot of the PlayStation. At that time, it was simply taken for granted that game consoles had mascots. Nintendo had Mario and Sega had Sonic, so Sony had Crash, only they never actually did. Naughty Dog, Crash's original developers, made the first 3 games in Crash Team Racing. They didn't own the license to their own creations, so they fucked off to play with ugly troll dolls and pretend they were Rockstar, before they were infiltrated and turned into a movie game slop factory. Sony didn't own the license either. Universal Interactive Studios did, and at this point, Crash was still an extremely recognizable money printer. The new console generation was just around the corner, and they needed a new developer. Traveler's Tales was it. The rest went basically as it did in my fanfic. They fucked around for a long time with grand ideas that they couldn't execute, got a reality check from the corpos, and ended up having to shit out a worse Warped clone in a few months instead. Let's get this out of the way before we start. I don't hate this game. I don't think it's very good. Actually, I think it's pretty bad. But I did play it all the way through multiple times since I was a kid, and I do find it entertaining at the very least. I do have quite a bit of nostalgia for this game, actually. Hey, like, comment, and subscribe, or I'll play Crash of the Titans. Unless you want me to, then I won't unless you'll do all of that. Come on, just click the buttons. Thanks. Remember how Naughty Dog was expanding on the storytelling of the series with each iteration? Yeah, throw that shit out of the window. We just get Uka Uka complaining about evil going down on a graph during an evil corporate meeting. All the villains are here, and by all I mean like 5 of them. The bosses from Warped, to be exact. There's no banter, and besides Uka Uka, none of them have any personality. They all look like complete shit too. Somehow Clancy Brown still manages to make Cortex somewhat entertaining even with the most boring script ever written, so kudos for that.
Crash Bandicoot, my old nemesis. How the heck are you? Still gathering crystals? Old habits die hard, don't they?
Basically, their plan this time is to use Cortex's new Mutant Bandicoot anti-Crash and a bunch of elemental masks voiced by famous people to defeat Crash or destroy the world, who cares. It pains me to think how much of the budget must have gone towards having Mark Hamill speak for a total of like 40 seconds.
On the contrary, Aku Aku. Spells disaster for you and that precious planet you care so much about.
And now we get to play the game. For how crap and uninteresting this intro is, it sure took a while. In terms of structure, Wrath of Cortex works like, surprise, Warped. We got a warp room with 5 different sections, each with 5 levels and a boss fight we can only access after beating all those aforementioned levels. Beating the boss grants access to the next section. They all have themes, but the levels inside don't really reflect that theme, just like Warped. Well, anyway, level 1. I actually quite like this one. It's good that Wrath of Cortex at least gives a good first impression. It's a snow level and I think it looks pretty great. The music is also really good, and this is something I have to give this game credit for. The music is fantastic all around, easily on the level of the original trilogy. Then we have the controls. Should be good, right? I mean, they're clearly copying Naughty Dog's homework, so they probably just emulated the movement from Warped, right? Sure. Sort of. I mean, it's all here. The slide, the jump, the spin, it just feels like shit. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but they feel noticeably worse than they did in Warped. They're not fast, responsive, and snappy like they were in that game. They all feel much slower and floatier. Here's a comparison. The game feels like it's underwater or something. Well, the level design is pretty basic, but there's a decent bit of visual variety. We go through a ski station, an igloo, a lake. This sort of set dressing didn't really exist much in the original trilogy. Levels mostly look the same all the way through, so that's pretty cool. A point in favor of Raph. There's no real slow introduction of mechanics or anything. The game basically assumes you get the drill at this point, which is fine for returning players. They even have reinforced crates right from the get-go, which need to be broken with the body slam. Its most notable feature is a death route, a platform that appears if we can make it to a certain point in the level without dying. I like this frozen mammoth guy here, he looks cool. There's a bunch of nitro crates in a death route, but the coolest thing is, and if you've seen my previous videos, which you totally should, you might know where I'm going. Yup. There's a gem here, and we can die after getting it to go back to the main level. Breaking every crate in the level, as is Crash tradition, grants us another gem, and with the crystal that was just laying around in the middle of the level, which is basically impossible to miss, we can get all 3 collectibles in one go, and have our very first... cock and balls! Fuck yeah! Basically, I like to get as many of these as I can as I go through the game. It's a bit of a personal challenge. No homo. Level 2 is a fucking plain level. Remember these from Warped? Well, I found them to be somewhat inoffensive there. Don't get me wrong, this is not me saying they're fine. They're pretty crap. They're over very quickly, so I don't mind them as much as other crappy vehicle levels. And the same sort of applies here, only the plane control's a lot worse. In Warped there was a barrel roll we could perform by pressing square, which helped avoid enemy attacks. Here instead we can roll in either direction by pressing the corresponding trigger button. When you barrel roll, your central axis remains the same, so your shooting and trajectory remain constant. Here you just drift away from where you're going and miss all your shots. The level's still piss easy, so I don't mind it very much, it's just filler. Level 3 is yet another vehicle level. Not looking good, but hey, I actually really enjoyed this one, surprisingly. Well, in the original trilogy we had the riding levels, which I always enjoyed, so I guess having good vehicle levels is nothing new. It's an atmosphere level. I don't know why it's called an atmosphere, but it's basically a ball. The momentum feels pretty good, unexpectedly, and the level even has some exploration baked in, with a few diverging routes and little nukes hiding boxes off the main path. It has a lot of ramps that let Crash reach satisfying levels of speed, but they never feel on rails because we have to keep paying attention not to miss any boxes if we want the gem. It's even possible to jump off the main path in a few places and land further on the level. It's pretty good. Wizards and Lizards is next, a medieval themed level. I like the aesthetics and I like the music, even though I have no idea what this sound is that keeps repeating in the background. Here's what I'm wondering though. Where does this game even take place? Why are we going from frozen ski station to farmland to jungle to medieval castle? In Crash 2 the game took place on one of the Wampa Islands from the first game, and we were warping around locations there. In Warp, the warp room was a time machine and we were traveling between different time periods. In Wrath of Cortex, Coco made some VR machine that apparently can teleport us or something. It's not very well explained or expanded upon. It's just a very poorly thought out excuse to bounce us between video game levels. Most of which are just stealing themes from Warped. Well, Wizards and Lizards is a half chase level, like level 4 in Warped. Wow. We run from a dragon for about a third of the level. Beyond that, it lifts these wizard enemies straight from, you guessed it, Warped. It's not a bad level, it's just not very original. It also has a death route we can use to cock and balls it. Fuck yeah. I actually died here because I didn't think the strat door would open up as quickly as it did, and then I missed the spin at this stupid bat, so I had to reset for my prize, but it was worth it. The final level of each warp room in Wrath of Cortex is actually sort of themed around the elemental mask responsible for that warp room.
Oh, I'm gonna shake, rattle, and roll your bandicoot butt.
They all follow this formula where the level starts with a crappy vehicle section and transitions into a traditional platforming section for the rest of the level. Here the vehicle is a minecart. All we have to do for this part is lean out of the way of nitros and into crates for the gem. This game also has gem paths, like the PS1 trilogy. Parts of the level that require a colored gem to access. We don't have the yellow gem, so we can't cock and balls this one. The platforming part of the level is pretty mediocre. Not bad, just kind of boring. These enemies aren't even trying to hit us. It's like a lab or factory or something. something, with drills and lasers and conveyor belts. There's this really cool part where the bouncy box that was supposed to break after 5 bounces broke after only 2 for no real reason and killed me, because this is a very polished and well put together game. This happened more than once during this playthrough, by the way. There isn't much else to talk about here, to be honest. Time for the first boss.
Well, looks like the Bandicoot's been busy collecting crystals. I warned you, Bandicoot.
Finally, I get to wrap my fingers around your puny orange neck.
What neck? Well, the boss is Crunch, our buff evil twin brother. He's being helped by the Earth Elemental when we fight him using the Atlas Sphere, which doesn't really work very well. We're a ball, he's a ball, and there are more balls balling around. We hit the balls, they turn blue. He hits the balls, they turn orange. Once all the balls are the same color, one of us takes damage. It feels kind of stiff though, probably because the Atlas Sphere was made for navigating actual levels, not a Beyblade arena. It's pretty bad, not offensively so, but I never want to have to do this when I play this game. Surely the bosses can only get better from here, right? No they don't. They're all shit. In any case, Wrath of Cortex introduces yet another entirely new concept. Get this, you beat a boss and you get a new ability. Now, where have I seen this before? And what could this exciting new move be? Yeah, you get to tiptoe over a few very specific explosive nitro crates that are not bouncing if you start from the same level as they are. I've seen a lot of people point out that this is never ever used for anything interesting, and I'm happy to say I actually found a single instance of this power-up being used in what is sort of a puzzle that's not just hold the button when you see the thing. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, it's a terrible power-up. So this is level 6, by the way. It's raining in it, so I like it. I like the visuals, even the 2D trees. The jungle just looks so lush. The music is pretty good too. I also like how you can see later parts of the level through the scenery. On the PS1, Naughty Dog had to squeeze as much power as they possibly could out of the console in order to render those detailed levels. But here, the extra horsepower allows Traveler's Tales to have more of the level loaded at once. Other than that, it's very mediocre, pretty empty and devoid of challenge for the first half, and then it turns into a vehicle level with a chase sequence where we run from rhinos while driving. The car handles pretty badly and it's very hard to tell where we're going. We crash at the end and the portal out is just across this bridge. I really like how this area looks. It's a mediocre level, but I enjoy it just because of the atmosphere. Well, level 8, Banzai Bonsai, is Coco's first platforming level in the series, and it's a Japanese themed level. Sounds great, right? Well, as it turns out, Coco plays kind of like shit. She's just worse than Crash in every single way. She doesn't get a slide, only a slow, crappy low kick, and instead of Crash's spin, she gets an also slow and crappy roundhouse kick. She can't even benefit from the power-ups we get from the bosses. In the Insane Trilogy and Crash 4, Coco is basically just a reskin of Crash. She plays exactly the same as him. I like the idea of her moveset being slightly different, but not a straight downgrade. As for the level, there's nothing really interesting besides the visuals, as should be expected at this point. It's very straightforward, it's not bad or anything, just another Wrath of Cortex level. I hope you like plain levels. In fact, I hope you thought to yourself, hey, this plain level is not nearly shitty enough when we played the first one in the previous warp room. Well, if that's you, then you'll love level 9, that sinking feeling. I have no idea what this thing Crash is flying on is, but it doesn't shoot bullets like you would expect. Instead, here we're supposed to hold the shoot button to lock on to our targets and let go after a bit. I think it shoots a missile or something, but I can't really see it. The level is tiny and I have no idea if the developers wanted to achieve some sort of optical illusion here to sell the scale, but if they did, they failed because it looks all wrong. These battleships are barely larger than Crash, and I'm not convinced they're far away or something. The level is just tiny. Crap level. At least it's over quickly. Yeah, alright, I skipped level 7. If you watched my Crash 3 video, you know I hate the water levels in that game. Well, thankfully Wrath of Cortex is an extremely original game and would never resort to copying every garbage vehicle out. Yeah, okay, it's just the water levels from Warped again, but less polished. Big surprise. This time we got a real submarine instead of whatever the fuck that thing was in the previous game, and it's terrible, hooray. The most bafflingly stupid thing about this piece of shit is the fact that for some reason, we can't just push the direction opposite to where we're going on a thumbstick to turn. No, whenever we want to turn, the submarine must first turn to face the camera. Then we need to push the direction again for it to finally turn around and actually face the direction we want to go. If you can't see for whatever reason, I'll point something out for you. This is a 2D side-scrolling level. This piece of shit is slow, hard to maneuver, and slowly shoots torpedoes with tiny hitboxes. Sounds fun? Well, it isn't. You know what's the worst thing? Once we can finally get rid of it, I feel like Crash actually controls a little bit better underwater than he did in Warped. He just feels faster and easier to turn. He also feels like he conserves less momentum and stops faster. I mean, the level would still suck if it was just Crash swimming, but at least I would be able to say it's an improvement over Warped, which is all this game so desperately wants to be. Unfortunately, the submarine exists, and unlike in Warped, we can't ditch it. Getting rid of the submarine kills us, and we can only switch between it and Crash at specific parts of the level. Trash level. I'm glad that's over with, is what I would say, but guess what the gimmick of the final level in the water warp room of the water elemental is? Yup, shit submarine. Hooray. It's the same as in Warp 1, vehicle section followed by platforming section and a lab factory thing. This one focuses on electrified water, which is not terribly exciting, but fine. Here's the one somewhat creative use of the tiptoe power-up, by the way. We have to avoid falling on this TNT crate ahead of this bridge of nitro crates so we can tiptoe over them. Yeah, that's it. Try to hold back your tears, I know this is some powerful shit. Water, laser level ends, no cock and balls.
Ah! Get over here, you little orange sponge!
Cause we're gonna wring you out.
Crunch 2 might be, and this is really sad, the best boss fight in the game. It takes place over 3 sets of 3 platforms we have to cross to hit him. He sends shockwaves that we have to either duck under or jump over. That's it. Yeah, and this is probably the best fight in the game in my opinion. Defeating Crunch this time around gives us the double jump, which is always handy, but I feel like I've seen this before. Oh well. I know I've been bitching a lot, but I feel like the game hasn't been all that bad so far, to be honest. Warp 1 is fine, Warp 2 is kind of a mixed bag. Warp 3 starts kinda good actually, with another castle level. The Gauntlet. This one is all about crazy contraptions that I'm not really sure why a castle would have. Giant blades, giant hammers, spiked walls. The bonus level has this gap after a platform for some reason and I keep forgetting about it and falling. The main notable thing about this level for me is the death route. It's full of these rotating blades and maces. I spent a while here trying to squeeze between them and I was starting to get really mad, but then I tried crawling under them and yeah, it works. It's just slow and boring as shit now instead of infuriating. Anyway, the rest of the level isn't all that interesting. Level design isn't really Wrath of Cortex forte, to be honest. Every level just feels like a bunch of obstacles from one after the other without much thought. And that's when it works, which is not as often as I would have liked. Regardless, I think the level is still serviceable. It's kind of fun. Level 12 Tsunami is the next Coco level. It starts as an even more undercooked version of Banzai Bonsai, but soon transitions to a chase sequence where Coco hops on a kick scooter and we have to run away from the titular Tsunami. It's very simple and very short. Nothing interesting is done with the concept at all. We just run towards the camera while holding circle to go faster, which the game never tells us. Dodge a few nitro crates. I'm getting more and more convinced that this game has no level design. The giant wave is stopped by a single wooden door that closes behind us. There's nothing in this area besides the exit portal and a gem route that requires the blue gem, which we have. Let's just grab the box gem real quick. What do you mean I missed the box? Well, fuck, no cock and balls. I guess Coco doesn't have them, so that's my excuse. The gem route is a simple platforming section over the ruins left behind by the wave. It's made a lot worse by the fact that the camera is too close to the ground and Coco's shadow doesn't project on water. Basically, we just have to guess how far we have to go with each jump. The area looks pretty cool at least, and I like the idea of going through the level again after it was destroyed by the wave. It's like the most basic form of environmental storytelling, but it is environmental storytelling. I guess this level does enough to be called okay. And welcome to probably the worst single level in the game, Smokey and the Bandicoot. Remember the shitty racing levels from Warped? Well, I'd like to apologize for bitching about them. Dude, how can you fuck up steering this bad? The slightest hint of a desire to turn will make this piece of shit cart drift like it's an episode of Initial D. It controls terrible. I decided to go for the gem on a separate trip from the crystal, which you get by winning the race. Basically, my plan was to wait for everyone to get out of the way and just slowly go for the boxes. Sounds simple, right? Well, it isn't. Just driving this garbage into a box is a nightmare, and missing a single one means quitting back to the warp room and restarting the level, as there's no way to turn around or reverse. Falling into a hole also restarts the level, while in warped it just wasted a little time. Awful, awful level. Next is an Atmosphere level, Eskimo Row. It's not as good as the first one. Problem here is the fact that a few areas are too wide and there's no real way to tell if we're missing any boxes without carefully scanning each of them before moving on, which slows the gameplay down to a crawl. It features more obstacles than the previous Atmosphere level, including the bosses from Warped, who are apparently demoted to generic grunts that show up multiple times in a single level with no explanation. Tiny is particularly pathetic. The Atmosphere remains decently entertaining, but I missed a crate and failed to get the gem, so fuck this level. Well, you know the drill. Final level in the warp room. I wonder which crappy vehicle level from Warped this one is gonna copy for the first half. Oh, it's actually taking the one crappy vehicle from Crash 2 instead, and making it worse as expected. The jetpack's back. This time it doesn't even look cool. A fucking propeller? Really? Anyway, the controls are inverted. If you've been following the channel, you might know I have a bit of a vendetta against inverted controls. Here's me desperately looking for a way to fix them. There's none. This section can suck my dick, holy fuck. I still haven't mentioned this, but the hitboxes in this game suck. A lot. Especially with semi-transparent objects. You see, if the player can't tell exactly where an object ends, the hitbox should probably allow for some wiggle room. Instead, it feels like they just made the entirety of whatever crappy PNG they used to make these effects the hitbox. Also, depth perception is almost impossible here. Maybe this game should have been on a 3DS. And after that, the level just becomes another version of the lab factory place with lava this time. It has these sections where Crash enters an X-ray machine or something, and we get to see his skeleton as he walks around, which is a cool effect. It also introduces a new crate type. Wow, what could it be? It makes Crash invisible for like 5 seconds and invulnerable to lasers, I think. It's extremely underutilized and feels like cut content. Well, that's it. I don't have anything else to say. Boss time.
Ah, the triumphant hero Crash, reduced to a pile of smoldering ash.
Let's finish this.
Surprise, surprise, it's shit. The arena looks pretty cool at least. It's a burning jungle at night. Deep dark background except for the flames. The fight goes like this. We run away from Crunch as he throws flaming boulders in our direction. Then we reach a mech and he runs away from us. We need to spray him with water to damage him, but we go slower when we're spraying, which the game never explains. So we have to just run after him for a few seconds before doing it. It's very unintuitive. The distance we have to run becomes longer with each hit. For the final section, the boulders Crunch throws may split in two, but regardless of whether or not they do, all we have to do to avoid them is jump as soon as they hit the ground. What's frustrating is the fact that the game gives us no masks before boss fights, so learning all of this cost me a few frustrating deaths, but whatever. Defeating him gives us the death spin from, come on, take a wild guess. Yeah, Warped. Warp 3 was a little worse than 1 and 2, but 4 is when the game really turns to shit. Level 16 is a snow level with Coco. Sounds good. It's another half uninspired platforming level, half shitty chase sequence on a vehicle. At least it looks good for the first part. I like the cozy looking cabins. For some reason the bonus level goes from right to left. I'm pretty sure this is the only one in the game that does this. Now that I think about it, no bonus level in the original trilogy is like this either. Weird. It also has ice physics for a brief section. They're terrible, and I sure am glad they're basically never used in this game. For the chase part, we need to snowboard down a mountain as we try to outrun an avalanche, like a shittier Sonic adventure. Going in between the flags increases the counter on the bottom left, and getting all 22 grants is an extra gem at the end. The camera doesn't really help though. I eventually noticed that the red flag is always the left one, so I used that as a reference. Cock and balls. At this point, I looked at all the remaining levels in the warp room and realized I really didn't want to play any of them. God damn it. Let's just get this over with. Droid Void. Let's talk about monkey bars. You know what? Let's not. I'll just let you see for yourself. You see the problem? No? Oh, my bad. I actually sped up the footage. This is how it actually looks like. Since this game likes Warped so much, let's see how monkey bars worked in Warped. See the problem now? I'm convinced this is a glitch, an oversight, anything. There's no way someone looked at the monkey bar sections in Crash 2 and Warped and went, this is some amazing gameplay right here, we definitely need in our game. But you know what could make it even better? Make it like 5 times slower. Yep, it's perfect now. Someone must have fucked up some parameter as they scrambled to get this game out on time, and no one noticed. I'm 100% sure it just had to be that. And then we get monkey bars that periodically damage us with electricity. Again, no fucking way someone actually thought this was a good idea, it's just fucking broken. Well, after like 3 million years, the monkey bar section is over. The level has to improve now, right? Well, no, get fucked. It's shitty, poorly designed, poorly implemented vehicle time. You know what? Maybe this level is worse than Smokey and a Bandicoot. At least that one is over kind of quickly if you ignore the gem. So what's so bad about this mech suit? Well, for starters, it doesn't fucking work. Sure, you can walk around, jump sometimes. I say sometimes because occasionally it'll just get stuck on this weird animation and refuse to do so. But the worst thing is the bazooka that comes with it. Remember the bazooka in Crash Warped? If you've seen my video on it, I actually bitched about it, believe it or not. Yeah, I'm fun at parties. Bitches love my complaining about cool mechanics in video games for little kids. Well, I don't feel bad at all complaining about it here. The radical wasn't perfect in Warped, but it's basically unusable here, especially in 2D sections. You know how I aim with it? I just spin the analog stick around and hope for the best. Eventually it lands where I want it most of the time. It's complete shit and I can't begin to understand how it's supposed to work. Leave it to Wrath of Cortex to make piloting a fucking mech suit shit. What's really sad is, the level actually has some cool ideas. The setting for one, it's like a space station going through a blackout. It's very atmospheric. Then sometimes we encounter these barricades with enemies behind them shooting at us, and we have to destroy them by aiming at nitro crates through metal box formations. Of course, none of that matters when the entire level is built around 2 mechanics that are simply broken. It fucking sucks. There's no saving it. Fucking shame. And I even missed a single box again to add insult to injury. Well, it can only get better from here, right? Well, it can only get better from here, right? Come on, man, what can I say? It's another fucking underwater level. This one has that problem where the area we can explore is larger than a screen, so for every inch of the level we have to carefully go up and down and scan the whole place for boxes that might be hiding out of sight. Once again, it gets considerably better once we leave the submarine. Crash gets to use the super spin to go really fast underwater, and it's almost fun to control. That doesn't excuse the bad level design though. And level 20 is the themed level, and to make up for how shit Warp Room 4 has been so far, it's a lot better than expected. And why is that? No vehicle section for starters. It takes place on an airship and we can see the outside of it when we go through these glass tunnels. It looks really cool. Hey, this level is actually not half bad. Why? It's only one relatively brief monkey bar section, but it really does wonders to bring down the whole thing. Also, I want to point out this exhaust pipe that shoots out some sort of hot smoke that I can barely see and that's positioned out of sight after a hole. I don't like it. The collision is also shit. Hey, at least we get to use the best power-up in the game again, that has to count for something. It falls short of being great, but Wuthering Heights is still easily the best pre-boss level in the game. Not that the bar is very high. Speaking of which, time to go beat up Crunch again.
Hey, look! The orange boy likes to fly!
Time to earn your wings, kid.
Guess what they stole from Warped this time? Time's up. It's Engine's boss fight. It was pretty good in Warped. It's fucking shit here. How unexpected. We're forced to use the plane for this one. Crunch is a giant ghost, I think. We have to shoot specific parts of his body as he uses them to attack us, just like Engine in Warped. But while in that game it was easy to tell when something was vulnerable by the fact that it fucking glue yellow, here it's very difficult to tell exactly where we can shoot. The wind elemental will circle around the general area where he's vulnerable, but it doesn't point to the exact spot. Aiming also sucks. Did I remind you of the inverted controls? Yeah, terrible fight. There's some spectacle to it, I'll admit, but it's ultimately janky and frustrating, and unoriginal. original. Just like this game in general now that I think about it. Well, it is pretty funny to watch Crunch's giant skeleton exploding like it's Mortal Kombat or something at the very least. And we get the fruit bazooka for beating him. Just like Crash and Burn is interesting. Let's get the bitching out of the way first. Why the fuck do we have to ride this stupid platform for like 5 seconds every time we enter the level? What exactly does this accomplish beyond wasting my time? Well, with that out of the way, I actually quite like the level. Might be one of my favorites from this game, but it also brings attention to what I think is a pretty telling problem with Wrath of Cortex, an overall lack of thought by the part of the designers. This is a lava level. Pretty cool actually. The tropical island during a volcano eruption. If you think about it, this is the first lava level in the franchise. Weird, right? Especially considering that the first 2 games took place in tropical islands, and the third game had a time travel plot that could be used as an excuse to throw Crash anywhere. Well, as it turns out, that was a conscious decision. They didn't just happen not to think of adding lava levels. You see, Crash is orange. You know what else is orange? Yeah, lava. Designers of the original trilogy were aware that putting Crash in an overly orange environment would be detrimental to visual clarity and decided against it. Traveler's Tales did not. The result is a level that looks pretty cool and feels quite unique owing to the fact that it's the first of its kind in the series, but that has an actually noticeable problem with assets hiding in plain sight. Even then, the level really is quite good. It goes through many visually distinct areas and has no annoying gimmicks. It's entertaining the whole way through and feels like Wrath of Cortex at its best. Really, if I wanted to convince some poor soul that this game is worth playing, this is probably the level I would show them. I love how we can see into the distance at the very end of the level as we approach the peak of the volcano. Again, this is something that the original trilogy couldn't accomplish, and it's really cool to see in a Crash game. Too bad Wrath of Cortex couldn't be like this all the way through. Okay, I'm ready. Time for the game to bring me crashing down into reality. What's next? Another shitty plane level? Another crappy underwater level? Some new half-baked shitty vehicle? Oh, okay. This is pretty cool. I never even thought of a Crash game taking place in the Old West, but now that it's in front of me, it seems obvious. It's a platforming level. What's going on? So, Gold Rush is also very decent. It's not as good as Crash and Burn, but I like it. What's up with these enemies though? They don't look at all like Crash enemies. The art style doesn't really fit. It kind of annoys me. The level design is pretty bare bones again, but just the novelty of the setting is enough to make going through it enjoyable. It offers a lot of variety too. It has monkey bars which suck, but it's a very brief section compared to the total runtime. This is probably the longest level in the game, by the way. It also features a very brief minecart section with mechanics that I believe never show up again in the game. And the bonus level goes from right to left like an avalanche. Huh. It goes from set piece to set piece and finishes with a rooftop platforming section. Good level. Okay, surely we can't have 3 good levels in a row, right? An Atlas tier level, and it's pretty good. Alright, this one is medieval themed. This is another thing that I like about Wrath of Cortex. It has a lot of vehicle levels, most of which aren't very good, but they don't really repeat themes very much. This game has a lot of visual variety, a lot more than the PS1 trilogy did. Levels all have their own music as well. Maybe I was being too hard on this game. It really does have quite a few cool things about it. Funny how the game seemed to go out of its way to disprove everything I just said. Level 24 sucks. I don't think I need to say anything else. Please refer to level 17 if you're still unsure as to why it sucks. Okay, this is the final level in the game. Well, it's the level before the final boss anyway. It's fine, but remember the hitbox thing I complained about back in level 15? Well, there's a lot of laser shit here. I'll let you put the pieces together. Also, will somebody tell me how the fuck I was supposed to know I couldn't step on this part of the floor? I can't even see it. Looks like the sparkly effect is coming from the firewall in front of it. These platforms right here have slippery edges for some unexplainable reason, and that can cause some bullshit deaths too. There's a gem route here, and I thought they were going to follow the tradition set in the original trilogy and have a route in the final level that requires all colored gems, but no, it's just a green gem. Well, it's sad to see that tradition go, but that's another cock and balls, so I'll forgive it. Well, I like the level well enough despite the bullshit hitboxes. At least there's no mech suit or monkey bar section, it's just platforming, and that's just what I want. Okay, it's time. Final boss.
Congratulations, Crash. You should be proud of yourself. Not only have you collected all the crystals in record time, but you also defeated the elementals. Let Crunch and me be the first ones to congratulate you.
By pummeling your sad bandicoot frame into a pulp. Come and get it.
It's Crunch again. I'd love to say it's good, but it's honestly not. He has 4 attacks he uses in a fixed order. Out of those, 3 of them can be entirely avoided by simply standing on the edge of the arena. The other one can be dodged by walking in circles pretty much. Each of these attacks represents an elemental, and Crunch will jump on buttons to activate each of them. Then he'll get tired and we will have to shoot him with the bazooka. I honestly forgot this power-up was even in the game. He'll get mad and punch Cortex into the arena where we can beat him up. Repeat 4 times, and then the fight ends like this. Totally finished and well-polished game, guys.
Can't you ever let me win? What do you want from me, you cretin?
Cortex! You realize that Crash may have collected all the crystals, but he doesn't have the gems. With the gems, we can resurrect the masks one last time and destroy that bandicoot once and for all.
Yeah, so the game expects us to go get every gem if we want to see the real ending. Normally I would go for it, but as in Warped, this also means doing all the time trials. And it has been brought to my attention that YouTube has a no self-harm policy, and so I will not be subjecting myself to this. So, in order to show you the amazing rewards we could unlock by beating the time trials, I nabbed the save file off the internet. Yeah, sorry. There goes all my gamer cred. Anyways, thank you for your service, Teddy. So, what would we have had the pleasure to experience firsthand had we gone through the rewarding process of playing through such amazing levels as Smokey and the Bandicoot and Void Droid again with a time limit and no checkpoints, a reskin of the Gauntlet where we play as Coco, a minecart race you can win by not even touching the controller, the bastard child of the worst levels from Crash 2 and 3, a decent monkey ball level, and a terrible snowboarding level with a fixed isometric camera. Yeah, I stand by my decision. And the final reward, the true ending, well, Crash defeats Cortex and Uka Uka. Crunch breaks free from Cortex's brainwashing, and Cortex and Uka Uka fall from orbit into an iceberg as Coco rescues Crash and Crunch on her spaceship she apparently has. And this leads directly into Twinsanity, ironically rescuing the tradition of starting new games from where the secret ending of the previous one left off, despite Wrath of Cortex itself not doing it with Warped, and the credits roll as Crash dances disco with some lab assistant. This game is a mess. I used to think it was a bit overhated. I mean, it's just Warped on the PS2, and Warped, despite all of its flaws, is still a good game. The more I played it over the years though, the more the little things started to take their toll on my enjoyment of it. I rarely outright hate a level in this game. It's more like they're all either uninteresting or too flawed. Very little in Wrath of Cortex is downright terrible. It's more of a death by 1,000 cuts situation, and it doesn't do anything well enough to make up for all of the minor problems. Despite all of that, I have to admit that I occasionally still have the urge to play this game from time to time. I'm sure despite my bitching, I'll eventually go back to the save file and get all the relics myself. This is still Crash Bandicoot, and for the longest time this was the only classic style Crash Bandicoot game released after the Naughty Dog trilogy. So in the end I guess Traveler's Tales managed to do what they set out to do. They may not have been able to outdo Naughty Dog even on much more powerful hardware, but they did leave their mark on the franchise. And frankly, I feel like the license would be handled much worse in the future. And hey, in the end, they did get their big breakthrough in the form of a billion LEGO games. I guess the main takeaway is, if you like Crash, there is enjoyment to be had here. Just don't expect the same level of quality you would get from the original series. Alright, that's the end of the video. Remember to subscribe if you want to. That would be pretty cool. You can watch my other shit if you haven't already. So yeah, see you next time. Bye.